Vader! How's the new apprentice working out? What's his name? Sunblaster? Moon Lover? Moonwalker?
Oh, the Star Killer?
Guy sounds like a machine! 2 lightsabers at the same time? Good thing he's on our team, huh?
Lord Vader, Starkiller has broken through
To our hearts, yes.
Alright boys and girls, I hope you're having a lovely day, okay? Today lads, I want to talk about Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2, okay? And you're probably wondering, Michelle, why do you want to talk about this game? Well, I just kind of felt like playing it, to be honest. I've been playing my PS3 quite a bit lately, okay? I recently played Max Payne 3, which was just absolutely incredible. And whilst I had the PS3 set up, I thought, why not play another game? And I was kind of in the mood for this, you know? I played the first one of this again last year and absolutely adored it. I had a really good time with that, and yeah, I was just kind of in the mood for Force Unleashed 2 for some reason. I've just been in a bit of a Star Wars mood lately, okay? I've been watching some of the movies again, and yeah, I just feel like playing it. And before we get into things, lads, I do kind of want to address, like, my very first playthrough with this game. When I played this game, I think I would have been about 14 years old. I'm pretty sure I was about that age, maybe at the very latest 15. I didn't actually play the PS3 version first. I actually played the DS version, because I didn't actually have a PS3 at the time. I was just a massive Star Wars fan, and all I had was a PS2 and a DS, so I had to make do with the DS version. And I've got to be honest, lads, I really enjoyed it on the DS, okay? I had a really good time with it. But then, like, not too long after, I did get the PS3, and yeah, I played The Force Unleashed 2, and I thought it was really good back then. I absolutely adored it. It was only until recently, boys, that I found out that not a lot of people like this game, okay? I know it's not as good as the first game, and I knew that even back then, you know, when I played it as a teenager. I enjoyed it a lot, but I knew it wasn't as good as that first one. But I had no idea that the reviews for this were so bad. Like, this has like a 60% on Metacritic, which is, you know, which is pretty low, to be honest. And I've even seen some people say that this is like a terrible game, and again, I was just completely blown away by that. I just had no idea that this game was so hated.
He doesn't like you.
I'm sorry.
I don't like you either.
So yeah, I went to go play this game again, knowing that, like, again, not a lot of people love this one, even though I liked it as a teenager. And how did I feel about it? I mean, it's not perfect, let's be honest, okay? It's not a perfect game, and it definitely has a lot of flaws, but I still don't think it's a terrible game either. There's still things I like about this game. So I guess we'll just start off by talking about the things that I loved about this game, okay? So I want to start off by talking about the visuals here, okay? So for the most part, this game looks really good, okay? I think the visuals have aged really well. You will notice a few moments in this game where the graphics just don't look that good. I don't know why that happens, but there's just occasional moments where the game just looks pretty terrible, but that's far and few between, lads. I think for the most part, this game looks really good, especially those cutscenes, okay? I mean, the cutscenes are like movie-like quality, and yeah, the game, generally speaking, looks pretty damn good. Another thing I really love about this game, lads, that was massively improved from the original, is that now you can, like, dismember limbs in this game. In the first one, there's absolutely zero dismemberment, okay? So you'll be slashing up stormtroopers and shit, and nothing really happens. They just die, whereas in this game, their arms get ripped off, their legs get ripped off and shit. I don't know, it's just cool. Like, I think you could even cut their heads off.
That shit is awesome. I mean, it's fucked up, but...
So yeah, low-key, boys, that the sadistic side of me did enjoy, like, dismembering, like, my enemies. I don't know, I just kind of had fun with that. And speaking of dismemberment, boys, that kind of links into gameplay here, so we might as well talk about the gameplay. The gameplay, on the whole, I really enjoyed. It's not perfect, but I had a lot of fun with the gameplay. The core gameplay here, lads, in my opinion, is just super fun. Like, the game will just throw enemies at you, and you just fuck them up. Like, you use all your force powers and just fuck everybody up. And I won't lie, boys, I had fun. I had fun just wrecking people. I will say there are definitely some, like, repetitive encounters in here. There's, like, a robot thing with, like, a shield. You have to fight those guys way too many times, and it gets really annoying, especially when you have to do the QTEs for, like, the 500th time. Like, low-key, that is kind of annoying. But for the most part, I enjoyed the gameplay here, okay? I mean, I would just pick people up with the force, throw them off a cliff. I would force lightning these stormtroopers with jetpacks. They would proceed to, like, fly into a wall and die. You can, like, force mind trick your enemies, and they'll start fighting each other, which is fun. You can do saber throws and throw your lightsabers at people, and then you can just slice them. You can just slice them with your lightsabers, and yeah, all of these methods are incredibly fun. And this game just makes you feel like a complete monster, okay? This and the first one. You'll just wreck enemies so bad, and you just feel like an unstoppable force, and I love that. And I feel like if we're going to talk about being an unstoppable Force here, I can't not talk about Rage mode here, boys. So when you click L3 and R3, if you've, like, got your Rage meter up fully, you'll just become a complete Force god. Once you click that L3 and R3 button, boys, it's over, okay? It's over for those enemies. They are gonna get toasted, and it's fun as hell to do, I must admit. So yeah, repetitive encounters aside here, lads, I really enjoyed the gameplay here. It was just super fun, and I just like using the Force in all sorts of different ways, and just, you know, mixing it up and doing all sorts of different Force powers, and I just like that variety, and just going into each encounter and just finding different ways to fuck people up. I don't know, I just found that fun. So yeah, I've been kissing the arse of this game long enough, boys. I've said about all the good stuff. I feel like it's time we talk about some of that bad stuff, okay, because there's quite a lot here, okay? This, again, is a very flawed game, and it's not perfect. So yeah, before we get into that, boys, I do want to address the elephant in the room here, okay, and that is the development of this game, okay? So for those of you who don't know, this game was developed in 9 months.
Excuse me, the fuck did you just say?
This game had a notoriously small window for development, okay, and it was just pushed out the door way too quickly. I might have enjoyed this game overall, but it kind of hurts low-key knowing that this game, if it had a little bit longer in the oven, and just thinking about how good this game could have been, it's kind of upsetting, honestly. This game has a lot of flaws, lads, and honestly, I just feel like if this game had longer, then a lot of those flaws would have been ironed out, and this would have been a great sequel. But because this game was pushed out the door so quickly, it disappointed a lot of people, and honestly, it kind of disappointed me in a lot of ways, because I might have enjoyed this game a lot as a teenager, but I can see it now, and I can see those flaws, you know? I know that this game is not a great game, and I know this game could have been a lot better. But yeah, let's talk about some of the flaws then, boys, okay? So I want to start off by talking about the story here, okay? Because the story was a lot of potential here. This could have been a great story, but honestly, it really wasn't. So at the end of Star Wars The Force Unleashed 1, boys, at least in the good ending, Starkiller dies, okay? So that kind of, that doesn't leave a lot of room for a sequel there. But they did find a way around it, boys, by cloning Starkiller, and honestly, that had a lot of potential, in my opinion. That could have been super interesting. I feel like they could have played a lot around, like, Starkiller's identity, and, you know, him obviously being a clone. They could have done a lot of things with that. They could have asked the questions of whether or not it even matters that Starkiller is a clone, which they do kind of ever so slightly dabble into that, but it never really goes anywhere. And what the overall story ends up crumbling down to in the end is Starkiller looking for Juno, and that's pretty much the entire story here. Yeah, honestly, I just kind of feel like it was a massive, like, missed opportunity here, because I feel like playing as Starkiller's clone could have been super interesting, but they never really go past the surface level with it. And they kind of throw that idea out at the beginning of the game, and then for the rest of it, you're just looking for Juno, and that's the entire story, and it's pretty much a letdown, if I'm being honest. And I feel like a lot of the reason this game doesn't really go, like, very far is, like, just the length of the game. This game is insanely short. You could beat this game in, like, 4 hours, and that's pushing it, honestly. Like, that's with you taking your time. You could probably rush out and beat this game in 3 hours if you really tried to. And with that short runtime, boys, the story just didn't have long enough to go anywhere, really. It just asked these interesting questions, and then just never really followed up with it. And again, it was a bit of a letdown.
You disappoint me.
And again, if this game had a bit longer in development, and you know, the story could have been padded out a bit more, and they maybe could have dived into some of those questions, yeah, we could have had a pretty good story here. But ultimately, it certainly was disappointing, especially compared to the first one. And speaking of the story here, boys, I feel like I need to talk about the pacing here, because the pacing, honestly, is not very good. When you're playing this game, you can't help but notice that this game feels insanely rushed. Like, events just seem to play out, and they just seem to happen, like, instantly, and then it just moves on to the next thing. The best example I can give for this is when you're on Dagobah, which consists of, like, a 3-minute cutscene, and you just walk, and that's, like, the entire time you spend on Dagobah, which, in my opinion, could have been an entire level. Like, could have been, like, an hour or 2 of gameplay. Instead, it plays out in, like, 3 or 4 minutes, and it's over before it even begins, and it's just like, really? No, that was fucking quick. And the entire game just kind of feels like that, like, things just happen, and then boom, 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 and then the game ends, right? You know, like, the pacing is just, it's terrible. It's just so insanely obvious how quick this game's, like, development time is, you know? It's just so clear that this game needed longer, and it didn't get it, unfortunately. So yeah, the story here, lads, was definitely disappointing, okay? The pacing was definitely disappointing, but what I will give this game credit for when it comes to the story is the endings, okay? This game has 2 endings, like, similar to the original. In my opinion, both endings are not bad at all, okay? Especially the bad ending. In my opinion, the bad ending is really good. In the bad ending, you decide that you're gonna kill Vader, okay, and take revenge, and as you're about to do it, another one of Starkiller's clones stabs you in the back. It's definitely a very tragic ending, I must admit, but it just kind of feels like the appropriate ending here. The good ending is fine, you know, it's all kind of happy, sunshine and rainbows, you know, it's a decent enough ending, it wraps things up pretty good. Basically, how it plays out is you spare Vader's life and then interrogate him. You reunite with Juno and everything's sunshine and rainbows, you know, it's a typical classic good ending. So yeah, in my opinion, both endings were solid enough, okay, and I just like the fact that you get 2 endings here. I like games that do that. They don't really do that too often now, you know. I mean, the last game that I can remember remember that had 2 endings was Ghost of Tsushima. So yeah, I kind of just like having alternate endings. So I appreciate them being here. The only other thing I wanted to talk about here, lads, and unfortunately it is a criticism here, there's just a lack of environments in this game. There's just not really too many levels here. Like, the very first level is on Camino, and it's easily the best level in the game. It's awesome, and I'm a sucker for Camino. I just think it looks amazing with all that rain and stuff. The next level, I can't remember what it's called. I'll just flash it up on the screen here, because I can't even remember what the planet is called. But that's also a pretty good level. It's got some interesting environments, and I enjoyed that level. But after that, lads, the game kind of goes downhill when it comes to the environments, okay? So you'll pretty much spend the rest of the game just on spaceships, you know, just boring spaceships. That's it. Right at the end, you do go back to Camino, which, I mean, you know, again, I like Camino, so it's cool and all. But yeah, that's it. That's like all of the environments in the game here.
Where's the flavor? Where's the flavor in this?
When you compare it to the first game that had the Death Star, Felucia, it had Kashyyyk, you know, and many other planets in that game, it's night and day, you know. This game needed more levels, and it's another example why this game needed more time in the oven. If this game just had another year in development, could you imagine how good this game could have been? It could have been really something. But ultimately, this game was just kind of disappointing in a lot of ways, you know. It just should have been a lot better. I don't think it's a terrible game. I think there's a lot going for it in terms of like the gameplay side of things. This game is still really fun to play. The 3 to 4 hours I spent playing the game, I still enjoyed because the gameplay was incredibly fun, and I just like playing a Starkiller and abusing stormtroopers. But yeah, it should have been way better, and it's nowhere near as good as the original, obviously. But yeah, let me know in the comments, boys and girls, have you played The Force Unleashed 2? Do you like it? Do you hate it? I want to know in the comments. But other than that, boys and girls, subscribe here if you're new, okay? And I'll see you guys in the next one, alright? Peace.